We will continue with the Christmas story. Today we will read the story titled Mr. Melancholy's Locked-in Christmas. Mr. Melancholy always gets sad at this time of year. He lives in the town of Gumdrop Lane, where there is not a drop of sunlight from at least 10 miles from there. The only seasons that the town experiences are Carenza and Lucia, which means cold and freezing. This makes the town's citizens very crabby and short-tempered. And Mr. Melancholy is the grumpiest of all. On one dark and cold evening, Mr. Melancholy is walking up his wooden stairs, and he starts to hear a creak creak creak. What can this be? He says. This house is as rotten and as old as this very town, the angry old man goes. The ground abruptly shakes, and Mr. Melancholy finds himself on the ground of his patio. The man has lived in this house for 50 years, and in all these years his house has never needed repairing. With all his anger and might, the old man stands up from the ground and marches to his car door. Stomp 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 slam. He is inside his car ready to escape this town because he has had enough of today's antics. One bad moment has ruined this old grumpy old man's day. He heads north towards Sugarcane Lane and takes a right on Snow Street. Up ahead is a preppy young man dressed in red and white. The man stops him, and the old man lowers his window. Where are you headed? The young man says with a smile. Well, if you can excuse me, anywhere but here. I hate this town. The old man says. Dropping his smile, the young man gives a disappointed look. I can't let you do that, he says. The old man frowns so hard that his face becomes wrinkly. And why is that, the old man says. The weather is awfully bad beyond this point. There is a snowstorm coming our way. I will need you to start heading back, the young man says. Without giving it a second thought, the old man quickly turns the other way, heading back home. Gumdrop Lane isn't that bad. The young man shouts. The old man groans and closes his window shut. As he approaches his house, he stares at the broken wood on the ground. He thinks of what to do next because he does not like to be bothered by people. It is beginning to become darker outside, so Mr. Melancholy goes into his house, avoiding the broken steps, so he can rest. In the morning he is awakened by a knock on his door. He comes downstairs, looks through the peephole, and quickly realizes it is the young man who did not let him leave town. He slowly and hesitantly opens the door and speaks in a low and intimidating tone. You already ruined my Christmas by not letting me leave, what more can you want? The old man says. Nothing, sir, honest. I just realized your staircase was broken, Mr. Melancholy, sir. The young man says. How did you find me? Did you follow me here? And how do you even know my name? The old man says. No need to worry about the details, it is the holidays. I just want to be of help. You seem terribly upset, and I did not mean to make you feel this way. The young man explains. Well, you can help me by going away. The old man says. In disbelief, the young man stands there as the old man shuts the door. As the old man walks into the house, his ceiling falls onto the ground, right in front of his face. As angry as Mr. Melancholy as he opens his door, notices the young man is still standing outside, and lets him in. The young man smiles, and it is brighter than anything has ever shined on Candy Cane Lane. Mr. Melancholy skeptically looks at him and crosses his arms. As the young man explains to the old man how he will fix his staircase, they both hear a faint knock on the door. Mr. Melancholy does not know many people, so he wonders who it is. Not even his own neighbors knock on his door because the whole town is as mean-spirited and as grumpy as he is. The young man tells Mr. Melancholy that it is a Christmas miracle, and that his name is Nicholas. Nicholas heads towards the door and opens it. The faint knock on the door came with a mighty flock of people eagerly wanting to help Mr. Melancholy. One by one, then two by two, a group of 30 helping hands came in, all in support of Mr. Melancholy. First, they produced a plan to work on the stairs. They executed the plan swiftly, then headed towards the ceiling. As fast as nobody has ever seen before, they were done before Mr. Melancholy could go upstairs to see the finished work. He had a slight grin on his face. I am not the kindest old man, and I am sorry for that. Why would you ever want to help someone like me? He says. Everyone deserves the magic of Christmas, says Nicholas. Would you like to stay for dinner, everyone? Please say you will join me, says Mr. Melancholy. As everyone around him smiles, Nicholas goes outside to bring something from his car. It is a cake. And then he goes outside to bring another item. This time it is an enormous turkey. Just like the helpers came in, they went back outside to bring items for a feast one by one, and two by two. Mr. Melancholy cannot believe his eyes. Not only is his house fixed, but he also does not have to be alone and grumpy. Some of the helpers are sitting at the dining room table, some are sitting in the living room, and a couple of them are standing. Nicholas, Mr. Melancholy, and all the guests join hands and give thanks. Mr. Melancholy looks outside and sees the snowstorm come to a halt. He also sees a bit of sun. He gives his biggest and only smile yet. "This is the best Christmas ever," says Mr. Melancholy. A melancholy man he is no more. The cold mixed with sun and snow created a new season in Sugar Cane Lane. From now on, they had winter. God will bless you. We will continue with the Christmas story. Today we will read the story titled Sharing is Caring. Dana stood and watched as slabs of ice and snow kept sliding off the huge domed roof of the telescope and smashes to the ground. Her deep sigh materialized itself in a form of misty cloud, which intertwined with the steam from her cup of hot chocolate. "Well, that's a pity." A known voice awoke in her from her reverie. Max stood next to her, also accompanied by the cup of some hot drink. "I was hoping to get some more interesting work done today." "Oh well, paperwork, here I come." He raised his mug and took a sip. "I've been putting it off for quite a while as well," she uttered, though her eyes never left the pile of snow which formed itself under the dome. Although starting at this mound could be called anything but productive, it helped to calm her mind. Observing the slight changes in the texture as wet snow slowly became more solid, mixing with ice from which the light was reflected. Focusing on this, forced other matters into the back of her mind, where their scream for attention were muffled. Damien almost got a concussion when one of those hit him. He pointed at one of the slabs which has, accompanied by a loud thud, just fallen. She shifted her attention to the warm cup which started burning her hand numb. She removed it from the said hand, and moved it to another one. "Have a sip." As the overwhelming sweetness hit her taste buds she made a wry face. Glancing at the dark mixture she narrowed her eyes in annoyance. "You look at that chocolate as if it was responsible for this catastrophe," Max noticed with a chuckle. However, noticing her glassy eyes, his attitude quickly changed. "Hey, you okay?" Dana quickly nodded, took out a tissue and, pretending to blow her nose, she discreetly wiped her eyes. "I know that these glasses may suggest otherwise, but I'm not blind." He pointed at his glasses with thick, black frame. "What's going on?" She shook her head. "I shouldn't worry you with my problems." "Why not? That's what friends are for, right? To complain about everything to them." As he said that, he took a look at her cup and then at his. Hearing no answer, he continued. "All right, how about we switch? I think you may like this much more." Taken aback by this proposition, Dana looked at his metal cup, decorated by dozens of stickers. "What do you have?" "Mulled wine," he smiled widely. "With a slice of orange, mind you." As if his joy was contagious, she felt the corners of her mouth slightly rise up. However, she, once again, shook her head. "I cannot." "It's your drink." She glanced at her cup. "I love chocolate. I should be able to enjoy it. So what's wrong with it? It definitely smells tasty. It's just too much." She closed her eyes, feeling tears gathering in them. Max gently touched her shoulder. "So, how about we share? After all, sharing is caring, am I right?" She opened her eyes and looked at his smile. Finally, she nodded and passed her cup. Max handed her his and raised a toast. "To us. And to hopeful opening of the telescope. Here." She took a sip and focused on the wonderful, warm tastes with a smoky note. The wave of heat spread through her body, bringing release to chilled out parts. "Knew you would like it." Max laughed to himself and also tried the drink. "Very tasty. But, I get it. It's not everyone's cup of tea. Get it? A cup?" Smiling broadly, he spread out his hands. Dana chuckled slightly. "Yes, I get it." She looked into his eyes. "Thank you, Max." He waved his hand. "Don't thank me yet. I have not done anything." "Thanks to you," I smiled, "and in my current mood that's an achievement." "You know what? I'll take it." He dramatically thrusted his chest out. After that they moved to the nearby bench where, after clearing it of snow, they rested their legs. Once their drinks were finished, Max returned to the subject. "I presume that the too much was not referring to hot chocolate. At least not only." Dana tilted her head, staring at the sky which getting darker and darker, the light of day slowly giving way to night. "Are you sure you want to listen to it? I think you either forgot how you helped me during my darkest hour." He presented his hand. Even though it was a bit red from the cold, you could still see the white band on his ring finger. "Or you don't think that other people should extend this kindness to you." "I don't like complaining," she admitted. "Especially when in the grand scheme of things my problems are not that terrible. From your perspective they are. So come on. Hit me." He waved his hands encouragingly. Glancing at him, she sighed deeply as if she was trying to release the tension with the air. "Well, let's start with the fact that my family is at each other's throats, creating two camps where each one believes that they are in the right and the others are simply stupid or just, I don't know, petty?" Seeing Max's somewhat confused look, she explained. Inheritance. Geez, that's so typical, yeah. You hear all those horror stories, but they always seem so ridiculous. Until that happens in your family, she shook her head. This feud took any joy out of meetings. I can't even call my parents and not hear about it. It always comes up. She got up from the bench and started walking back and forth. And then there's my paper. I had such a great idea for it, so much inspiration and reference, and now I can't even write one sentence. And I wanted to have it finished before Christmas so I could properly relax and enjoy the holiday. Now, even if I miraculously managed to finish it, I still wouldn't have been able to rest because of the arguments. The words stood up in her throat, and only after a while was she able to get them out of herself. I'm just so tired, Max. Tired and annoyed and anxious and everything. She sank back onto the bench. It's supposed to be one of the sweetest periods. After all, Christmas is coming. And yet all of it is too much. I want to enjoy it, but right now, for me it's too sweet at times. Especially when everything else is so sour. Just like this chocolate. He glanced at the empty cup in his hand. But I get it. Believe me. And I love Christmas. I've been annoying everyone since November with the Christmas tunes and decorations. Yet, it can be overwhelming at times. Especially when other things in life go a bit off the rails. His hand rested on her arm. I'm sorry that you haven't been able to enjoy this time. I hope that your family will see reason, and as for your paper, well, sometimes it is best to take a break, you know? Gain a perspective. And it's also good to share those bad bits of our life as well as the good ones. Dana looked at him, and her shoulders relaxed. She touched his hand and smiled. It's easy to forget that. Thank you. You can always count on me, the same way I know I can always count on you. With that said, he stood up. But now, how about I get my telescope and we do some observations? The sky is surprisingly clear. You have a telescope at the site? She raised an eyebrow. In my car. I may or may have not been too lazy to get it out after my last escapade. A chuckle escaped her. All right then. I presume our plan, to finish some paperwork, has died of natural causes? Precisely. With that, together they went, retrieving the telescope from Max's car, and after finding a nice spot they indulged themselves in their favorite pastime, with their cups refilled. They took in the splendor of the night sky, pointing out the stars and planets with great enthusiasm. As they chatted happily and gazed through the lenses, they forgot about their daily troubles and were transported beyond the boundaries of Earth. In moments like that, Dana was reminded of why she chose this profession, and how much she valued it. Another thing which was easily forgotten. But now, as the voices in the back of her head grew quiet and she no longer felt the need to hold back tears, she could fully forget oneself in the beauty of the heavens above and the comforting presence